When you're worried about underarm sweat and odor, it can be distracting. Like this. Or this. Or even this. It's time to silence those distractions with a spray of powerful Dove Men Plus Care Antiperspirant. Featuring our 72-hour protection and soothing 1/4 moisturizing cream. Because when you forget about your underarms, you can focus on being unforgettable. Dove Men. Forgettable underarms, unforgettable you.
As I was getting set to set up and record this week's episode of the Show Before the Show podcast, I thought I had some like witty intro. There was something that I was going to open this up with, and I don't remember what it was. And so that'll serve as the intro for this week's episode of the Show Before the Show. Hi, dudes. How you doing?
Good. In that we are here. I mean, that is all the intro we need, really.
Yeah, that's
we're
the
all
aim.
gathered around microphones.
Yeah.
Chatting about minor league baseball. I did say, I did have this thought the last couple of days because I have restarted MLB The Show 2024, as many people across the country and of course across the world are doing. And I started my Diamond Dynasty team, and using the marks made by Chad Miller Jr., I am playing as the Austin Knights.
Oh, no way!
I have designed my own uniforms.
That is fantastic.
He tagged us in a thread a couple weeks ago about him designing his own uniforms for this year, but our logo is in the game.
All right, I'm going to have to do that too.
Yeah, search Austin Knights, design your own version. My home jersey, I didn't go with the whites. I went because it's the Knights. We got to go dark blue.
Yeah. Like the Jackson
orange and yellow. Yeah.
Oh, that's great, man.
So it had me thinking, and not to turn this into an editorial meeting, but I think we have to design a team again.
Yeah, I think so too. We did that
as we go
2 off seasons
further away
ago?
from opening day.
That was the off season prior to the 23 campaign, correct?
Yeah. For those who may
maybe recently joining us.
Yeah, those who are welcome. You're listening.
Yeah, welcome.
Welcome and hello. And,
Tyler Mon, Ben Hill is talking. Sam Dykstra was the one talking about the show. In case this is the first time if this actually is the first time that you're tuned in, you should send us an email, podcast@milb.com. This is a specific introduction just for you now.
Yeah, it's like the whole cliche if you work in baseball, like every game is someone's first game and you got to make it special. And every episode of this podcast is someone's first podcast and we need to make it special. And so context for the Austin Knights, for those who are just joining us, in the off season leading up to the 2023 season, we did a design your own team episode where we solicited suggestions on the podcast and through social media. And a guy named Chad Miller suggested Austin Knights with a K. We tweaked it a little bit to Knights, just Nights. Put together a concept with a bat, because Austin has the bats coming out.
The animal.
Yes, the animal, the bat. Yes. So a night, like dark as night, like not the day, and with bats in the logo, not the baseball bat, but there's a nice tie in there, but the bats that emerge from out underneath the bridges in Austin at night. And I'm forgetting the name of like the iconic bridge in Austin where that happens.
You just call it the
Congress
Bridge.
Congress Ave Bridge.
Yeah, Congress Avenue
Congress something bridge. I was just in Central Texas. I should probably know this.
But a colleague of ours, Vince, I'm gonna get his last name.
Petafrezzo,
did an incredible job bringing it to life. And ever since then, we've gotten persistent queries from people. Are you ever gonna do anything with this logo? And the answer is still no, because it's too much to get into.
We don't own a minor league baseball team. We can't just slap it on a hat.
Not yet.
Yes. And as MLB employees, we got to say there's a lot of things that we'd have to do. T's crossed, I's dotted. What else do you do?
Q's with the little thing added to them.
Yeah, you have to do all those things to really put a process like this in motion, and we've just been too slow.
Well, that's why we pick up the pace again with a new team. We'll put out a call. We'll put out a call now. I mean, we can do that now. Like we can, if you have an idea for a city you would like to see that's not a current minor league city. Austin's like close to Round Rock, but at least it's not currently a minor league team.
Right.
City name. That you would like to see represented. tweet at us at Sam Dykstra MLB, at Ben's Biz, or send us an email, podcast@milb.com, and we'll just start a list now. Like,
Yeah,
we'll try to aim to do this episode sometime in May, I'll say, because April's
I
kind
like
of
this.
coming up quick. But like, let's do this again. That was one
Yeah,
of our
it was
most
a
fun episodes
friggin'
ever.
blast. Such a
Yeah.
fun episode.
And I would like to see this team, Tyler. Maybe you and I will do like another draft or something, and like our secondary team will face the Austin Knights,
Ooh, I like that idea.
and then we'll be the show. So
The Austin Knights versus the,
let's see. Let's
Okay,
not put our
okay,
finger on the
okay,
scale. Let's
okay.
see what it's
All
gonna
right.
be.
I like it. I like it. I like it.
Yeah, I'll stay away from the video games. All I do is play cribbage on my phone. That's the extent of my video games.
So I did purchase the show 24, but I've just been so locked in on the show 23. I'm like trying to finish up like the final couple of Negro League storylines that I haven't done yet and doing some. So I haven't even opened up 24 yet. But I think this weekend that'll probably be the time that I dive into 24, because you can import, like if you've got a franchise going in 23, I believe you can import it into 24. I may have to go with the Knights though. I might copy you, Sam, and do a franchise with it.
Yeah,
What's your
I mean,
ballpark?
Well, I just do it Diamond Dynasty, so
Okay,
moving around.
Gotcha.
We'll see what the franchise is going to be. Right now, Sam Collins, because Collins is in the game, and my last name is not actually in the game.
Yeah.
Is currently playing. What team am I on? Shoot, I should know this. I'm playing in the Eastern League. I'm a shortstop. I was drafted in the 9th round for the Akron Rubber Ducks.
Oh, okay.
Currently getting like 320.
We would be opponents because I was actually drafted by the Colorado Rockies. So I'm with the Hartford Yard Goats, and I am a third baseman. So we can like leave each other notes on the side of the infield.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
And maybe someday if you're a third baseman, I'm a shortstop, we'll share the left side of the infield.
Yeah,
We'll both get
that sounds
traded
great.
to Kansas City or
Hey
something.
man,
Not
I'm
Kansas City.
playing in a NABA league coming up this spring and summer. So if you ever come out here, we can just have you like pose as one of our guys who can't make it for a day, and we could throw you out there.
I mean,
Old
or I
man
could
baseball.
coach third base.
Or you could coach third base.
I could give signs like nobody's
Just
business.
send me regardless, and I'll just
100%. If you're on
die
first
of-
base and I see you hustling, insofar as Tyler Mon can hustle,
I was
I'm
gonna
sending
say
you.
hustling, and you're gonna be like, does this guy have a serious leg injury? Why is he that slow? Well, we welcome you into this week's episode of the Show Before the Show podcast, and we have so much to get to as the minor league baseball season is underway all across the spectrum, and not just baseball on the field, but attending baseball games across the country is the domain of the legend himself, Benjamin Hill. 186 minor league ballparks that Ben has attended games at over the past 13 seasons, over 300 games. And in 2024, Ben's road trips are back. 4 road trips in total, kicking things off in the Golden State, as it is known. That's California. Ben, let's run through the road trips. This is a pretty exciting way to kick things off. You get to head out for a little Cal League / some restructured stops in the minor league landscape to kick off your 2024 trips.
Indeed. I've been traveling since 2010, going on road trips throughout the minor league since 2010. So it's been a while. I was trying to calculate seasons, and then it gets awkward because 2020 wasn't an actual minor league season. So I believe this is my 14th season of doing this. Doesn't really matter. It's been a lot. Tyler, as you said, I've been to 186 ballparks. This will be the 3rd year in a row in which no new minor league ballparks are opening, and the 2nd year in a row for me personally in which I don't have any new ballparks to get to in the affiliated context. So, the priority was just looking at places I hadn't been to for a long time, and there's plenty of those, and try to spread it out a bit geographically. And got 4 itineraries on the calendar right now. There'll probably be some slight tweaks and additions throughout the season, because there's still some things that we need to work at. We need to cross T's, dot I's, those sort of things. But like you said, starting off in just a couple of weeks in the great state of California, where with the exception of a Fresno Grizzlies game in 2019, I haven't been to California for 7-8 years professionally. So I'm going to be at San Jose Giants Excite Ballpark on May 2nd. It's a beer batter Thursday. That's an iconic thing in San Jose, and I loved that ballpark the one time I'd been there. Modesto Nuts, John Thurman Field.
The place for family fun.
That's
I wrote
right,
that
and
from
I'll
our
get to
song episode.
I'll get to see Shelly again, Shelly the mascot.
Ben is going to be so
Reunited.
bashful.
Yeah, I'm
Reunited.
gonna be so shy around her.
Yeah.
She's a sweet nut. Um, that's May 3rd, Modesto. May 4th, Stockton Ports, Banner Island Ballpark. It's Star Wars night, May the 4th. I'm not particularly a Star Wars fan, but I've enjoyed being at Star Wars nights in the past just because of the Star Wars atmosphere. I like the fans who come out in costumes, and there's usually what is it, the 501st Legion? Is that what it's called? The local
that
character
sounds
groups
right.
who come, and they've got man, they've got standards. Like, to be a member, to be a guy in costume or a woman in costume officially in costume through a Legion at a minor league ballpark, you've got to meet some high specifications for your costumes. So looking to see who's in Stockton that night on May 4th. And then soon to also be the home of the erstwhile Oakland A's, Sacramento, Sutter Health Ballpark, May 5th, a Sunday afternoon game. So it'll be interesting to go there. Haven't been there for 8 years, and be good to get a sense of what the ballpark looks right now, and what changes might come in advance of 2025 when they host the River Cats in conjunction, and as well as the Major League A's for what should be 3 seasons. So that is the start, that quartet in May.
Yeah, Ben, while we're talking about Sacramento, because that was one of the big minor league pieces of news from last week and came out after we recorded, just give people and you're going to get a better sense when you get there for sure. And I'm looking forward to what you hear and what you see, but like, give people a sense of what Sutter Health Ballpark is like, and what people can expect to see. If we don't know what it's going to look like for major league games necessarily, but the park isn't getting major renovations for this, as far as we know. It's not like they're taking away the berm seats in the outfield. So what are your memories of that place?
Yeah, I was there in 2016. I have it in the newsletter, and all these itineraries in my newsletter, and it'll be on milb.com soon as well. And my biggest memory of being there in 2016 is running in a governor's rate, the heads of state race, and I was a giant Ronald Reagan racing against Arnold Schwarzenegger and Gray Davis, Sacramento being the capital of California. And so they had a governor's race going on, and I got to be Ronald Reagan. So that is something I remember because I felt incredibly nauseous after the race, and I was on the concourse, and all these fans wanted to take pictures of me, not because it was Ben's Biz, because it was Ronald Reagan. And just thinking, like, I'm so close to passing out in a giant Ronald Reagan costume on the concourse of a minor league ballpark right now. But that ballpark has been open for, I believe, over 2 decades now. They've always drawn well in Sacramento, especially in the earlier days. You could count on Sacramento to be among the top attendance leaders in minor league baseball, often at the top. They were a success right out the jump. It's a ballpark which I believe is technically is it West Sacramento?
West Sacramento.
Yeah.
Yes.
So not technically in Sacramento proper, but you can get to Sacramento in minutes from the ballpark, and it's still more of a downtown atmosphere. It's not like you're off some freeway exit, 15 minutes out or anything. There's more of a downtown feel. Very much a 21st century ballpark, and a lot of room to move. Berm areas, group areas, 360-degree concourse. I remember there's views of a bridge behind the stadium, which were pleasant. As I said, it's been 8 years, so some of the specifics are a little blurry. I believe there's about 10,000, 11,000 fixed seats, and you can get up to around 14,000 with standing room, berm seating, that kind of thing. And I'm sure they don't have some major renovation in advance of the A's playing there, like adding on like a whole upper deck seating area in the outfield or anything like that. But clearly they're going to need to do quite a few renovations just to figure out the specifics of hosting 2 teams at the same time. I'm always kind of a little territorial about minor league baseball. And, the way I saw it phrased is like, well, the River Cats will still play there when the A's are on the road. And I'm like, no, the A's will still play there when the River Cats are on the road. This is there.
You don't come into our home.
Yeah.
And just come on now. That's how I looked at it. But 6 of one, half dozen of another. It's going to be really interesting because in AAA they're now up to, what is it, like 150 game schedule. So that's 75 home dates for the River Cats, plus of course 81 for the A's. So that's
and plus the mismatching of the schedules, and that AAA will be 6-day series like we currently have, unless that's going to radically change for next year, and I don't foresee that coming. And whereas Major League Baseball clearly doesn't have that.
It's going to be
a lot of puzzle pieces trying to figure this out. But
how they do this, I don't know. And I was trying to think, is there precedent for this? And I couldn't think of you can think of cases where two teams shared a stadium in the past. And of course you have that all the time in Jupiter, Florida, with the Jupiter Hammerheads and
Salt River Fields, spring training
and that kind of thing. You think of when Scranton went on the road for a whole season when their ballpark was being renovated, and they spent not the whole season, but a big chunk of their home games in Rochester that year. I know, didn't the Mets share a ballpark with
the Yankees shared with the Mets? The Yankees played at Shea Stadium for a little while.
Yeah. And there's been that kind of thing, but didn't the Bowie Bay Sox actually play at Memorial Stadium in Baltimore their first season after the Orioles went to Camden Yards? So of course you can go on and on about anomalous situations, but a situation of a major league team moving into a minor league ballpark temporarily, I cannot think of a specific.
The other one that comes during Toronto Blue Jays in Buffalo
season in Buffalo.
Right, there was the pandemic stuff,
but Buffalo opened up in Trenton,
right?
Like that, they weren't sharing a facility in the same.
No, they didn't play at the same time. So I think like a lot with this A's saga, you kind of take everything with a little bit of a grain of salt, just knowing like the specifics might change along the way. And I'm sure there's just going to be a lot of talk over the next almost a year in terms of how they're going to work all this out. But it's really interesting, and it'll be interesting to talk to River Cats front office, and I'll try to do a story on that. I think this is one of those stories where people probably don't want to say too much right now with so many moving parts, but it would be at least nice to get their thoughts on what this is going to be like. And while there's been a lot of negativity with the situation with the A's and leaving Oakland and all of that, if you just want to be positive about it, it's like, well, the people of Sacramento have a major league team in their city now for a couple years. And no matter how it came about, I think you can look positively just for local fans in that way. There's also the irony. Is it irony? But, the River Cats were an A's affiliate through the 2014 season, and then it was like a coup for them to get the Giants, and they really wanted the Giants, and they became a Giants affiliate. And now
the River Cats can say, well, look who's back in Sacramento.
So now you have a former Oakland affiliate who is now a Giants affiliate sharing a ballpark with the A's themselves. Well,
before the A's moved to where their AAA affiliate is.
Yeah, where their AAA affiliate already is in Las Vegas.
They're not going to move to Sacramento just to later move back to Vegas. That's not in the cards.
Yeah, so it's interesting times. But anyway, I'm just going to be there for a Sunday afternoon. I'm not.
I think that's timely though. I'm glad you're going when you're
Me
going,
too.
because that's great timing on that part. And obviously you're going to see a bunch of other California parks, like you said earlier, places you haven't been in a while. But with Sacramento on the tips of everybody's tongues for the next year, nobody better in the industry to talk about what it's like as an actual ballpark.
Yeah, and that's I think going to be my main angle. I'm not going diving down into the specifics of this very multifaceted situation, but I think to just be able to say, hey, this ballpark is probably on your mind more than it used to be, because it's going to, and here's what it looks like now, and here, get a real sense of this place, I think will be good to do. So that is trip 1, May 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th in California. Then the next month, kind of building an itinerary around this. There are things to figure out with this game for sure, or for this itinerary and for this game in general. But as we've talked about many times on this podcast, the Rickwood Field in Alabama and Birmingham, Alabama, the oldest ballpark in the country, in the world, in the universe, is hosting a major league game on June 20th. 2 days before that is a minor league game between the Birmingham Barons and the Montgomery Biscuits. And, I thought, I really want to get to that game and see minor league baseball at Rickwood Field again. Of course, there was the Rickwood Classic from 1996 to 2019, where the Barons played one game a year there. So it's certainly something with a lot of precedent, and the Birmingham Barons playing that annual game for so many decades kept the park, I think, in good enough shape for this to even be considered at all, even though they've done a lot of improvements to bring it to the major league level. The fact that it was still functional and there was a large group of people, many of them volunteers, keeping that ballpark in order and having an annual minor league game there really did set the tone and lay the groundwork for this major league game that's happening, but preceded by a minor league game, June 18th. So built a little itinerary around going to that Rickwood game, the specifics of that, how we're getting there, who's going to be there, exactly how that's all going down. We're working on it. But I went to Birmingham last year, but I was like, okay, if I'm going to Birmingham, I want to build an itinerary and visit places I haven't been. So heading west from Birmingham after that game on the 18th, Memphis Redbirds, AutoZone Park, June 19th. Arkansas Travelers at Dickey Stevens Park in Little Rock, June 20th. And the Northwest Arkansas Naturals in Springdale, Arkansas on the 21st. And those three teams, Memphis, Arkansas, Northwest Arkansas, I haven't been there since 2012 during a road trip in which I just found out I was diagnosed with celiac disease, decided to not change my diet during that road trip. So my memory,
No.
and it was fine. Like I didn't really have many symptoms anyway. So it wasn't like I was like just having a hard time on the road, but I was like, you know what? I've lived my whole life a certain way. So this road trip's just going to be the last period of my life where I'm not thinking about my diet. So when I think about that trip in 2012, when I was in Memphis, when I was in Little Rock, when I was in Springdale, Arkansas, I think of how I was every meal. I was like, am I going to be able to do this anymore? Can I do this? So that's how long ago it was. 12 years ago was the last time I was at those places. So more to come from that Birmingham centric Rickwood
And happier memories, I would say.
Yeah. And whatever, it was fine. In the wake of that, the designated eater concept came up and
Right.
blah, blah, blah. Then trip number 3, North Carolina. I was looking at my road trip history. I've been to North Carolina in 8 previous seasons of all of the 13 seasons in which I've been on the road, because there are more teams in North Carolina than any other state. There are currently 10. There used to be more when there were more minor league baseball teams in general, but there's 10 minor league affiliated teams in North Carolina. Of course, there's some Appy League teams in North Carolina. There's some are collegiate. There's some independent. It is a great, great state for minor league baseball and for baseball below the major league level. So why am I going to again? 2 things. Of all the teams, I've been to every minor league ballpark, but the one that had the longest gap out of all of them, even though they were in North Carolina, was the Winston-Salem Dash, 2011. So I was just like, I got to get back to Winston-Salem. That's ridiculous.
Ernie Shore Field, correct? Back then?
No, it was the first or second season of Truist.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I never did get to Ernie Shore Field, where they played as the Warthogs, and then they played as the Dash, I think, at their final season in Ernie Shore Field. And then in 2010 or 2011, they moved to their current home of Truist. Was it Field or Stadium? It is
Used
Truist
to be
Stadium.
BB&T Ballpark, which was like one of those things like Fifth Third, which had a whole bunch of different ballparks with names with the same naming rights. And now, yeah, Truist, which is, of course, the same name as the Atlanta Major League Stadium.
And the Charlotte.
And the Charlotte Knights.
And Charlotte. Which also used to be BB&T. Maybe is just gone. Is that I'm not really familiar with the.
Is that we stay up on banking mergers?
Yeah.
Exactly. These are the banking news items of like 6 years ago in the Carolinas.
Yeah, I mean, how else would we keep up on these things other than stadium corporate names changes at stadiums? Anyway, I wanted to get to Winston-Salem Dash, and I also wanted to go to Granger Stadium in Kinston, North Carolina for the last time they're playing their final season before relocating to Spartanburg.
So jealous.
Yeah, Tyler, come join me on July 26th.
I really
July
might have to make that
26th.
trip because I love that place, as you know.
Yeah, so I'll be there one last time, seeing the Down East Wood Ducks at Granger Stadium on July 26th, then heading over to Durham, see the Bulls at the DBAP, Durham Bulls Athletic Park on July 27th, the Greensboro Grasshoppers on July 28th, which is a Sunday. They're home of First National Bank Field. And then I hit a Monday, and of course there's no minor league baseball on a Monday, but of course there's a lot of baseball in North Carolina. And the Danville Otterbots are hosting the Burlington Sock Puppets on Monday, July 29th. Those are both Appy League teams. They used to be the Danville Braves and Burlington Royals, but now they're the Otterbots and Sock Puppets. And not only that, then on Tuesday, July 30th, it's like a home-and-home series. So on July 29th, I'll see Danville play Burlington in Danville, and then July 30th, see Burlington play Danville in Burlington. So I'll get to go to Danville and Burlington in a home and home series, the Otterbots and Sock Puppets, a little Appy League interlude, and then finally on July 31st, Winston-Salem Dash, Truist Stadium, finally making it back there for the first time since 2011. And then one more on the schedule right now. And what I was prioritizing here is Michigan. I have really good memories of going to the 3 teams in Michigan during a road trip in 2013. It was right after the summer solstice. The nights or the days seemed to last forever. I remember some nights it seemed like the sun wasn't fully going down to like close to 10 p.m. It was just
I feel like people don't talk about that enough in Michigan. Like I went to Michigan for a wedding once, and the sun was still out at like 9:30.
Yeah,
because it's just so far on the
So
Eastern
far
time
north,
zone.
yeah.
It's so
And
far
yeah,
north,
yeah,
and
and on the Eastern time zone. Yeah,
yeah,
good point.
it's just like in that perfect pocket that they have long days there and long summer days spent on boats in the lakes. I would imagine, but
yeah.
anyway.
Well, I loved it. And so this time around, it's going to be in late August, so the days won't be as long, but it's still summer. I was like, I just want to get back to Michigan this summer. It's been since I did go to the Midwest League All-Star game in Lansing in like 2017 or 18. But beyond that, I haven't been to Michigan since 2013. So I made an itinerary with the West Michigan Whitecaps LMCU ballpark, you know, outside of Grand Rapids and Comstock, Michigan, August 23rd, August 24th, the Great Lake Loons at Dow Diamond. Then August 25th, Toledo Mud Hens, just because that was a team that was home that day and not too far from Midland, Michigan, where the Loons are, and love Toledo. August 26th is a Monday. Not quite sure what I'm doing on that day yet, if anything. And then back into Michigan for the Lugnuts, Lansing Lugnuts on the 27th, and then Indiana on August 28th, the South Bend Cubs. So those are the 4 itineraries I have right now. They were all laid out in my newsletter. And if you're not subscribing to my newsletter, the Ben's Biz Beat, write down this URL right now. You got a pen? Everybody got a pen, pencil, voice memo, whatever you need. Crayon. Yeah.
a writing implement of some kind.
Yeah, a sharp fingernail in your
In the sand.
In the sand. I was gonna say your forearm. That's really gross. MLB.com/forms/MILB-newsletter-registration. I'll say it again, or you can just rewind. MLB.com/forms/MILB-newsletter-registration. I wish there was a way I could just say it and my words would appear as a URL on whatever device you're listening to on this.
I will say I did just install an iOS update the other day, and it said podcasts now come with transcription. So maybe it will.
Yeah, I hope so. And I hope it's already hyperlinked when I give that. But please subscribe to my newsletter. I release the itineraries there first. It'll be a standalone MILB.com article that is out. Well, by the time this podcast comes out, it is out as well. And of course, I'm recruiting designated eaters, doing it differently this year for all trips. I'm not going trip by trip. If you want to be a designated eater at any of those locations, designated eater is the individual who consumes the ballpark cuisine that my gluten-free diet prohibits. Please get in touch, benjamin.hill@mlb.com, subject line designated eater and the team you are interested in, and accepting those applications right now as we speak. Already have gotten some good responses from people who got the newsletter yesterday, and I'm sure they'll keep, if not flowing in, at least trickling in, dripping in, as long as I've got something coming in, because yeah, we were talking off air. You know, sometimes heading into the season, I'm not in the best place mentally, but getting this all out and starting to hear from people. Now I'm turning the corner, feeling good. Hopefully I'll be ready to get back out there, getting over the anxiety. It's going to be okay. It's another season on the road, Ben's Biz style. I've done it before. Why is everything so difficult? It's just because being alive is difficult, but we can get into that another time.
That is very true. But a lot of really good spots listed in 2024. I'm going to consider this this North Carolina jaunt. I just want you to know, you might be stuck with me. I know it's like probably a nightmare for most people, but maybe a stop or two in North Carolina. I might.
As long as you guys have separate rental cars, I think we'll be fine.
No, we'll have the same rental car,
and it'll be like a 1940s Fiat. So it'll just be like the two of us crammed in like a clown car. Sounds great.
Somehow Tyler's right leg is sticking out the window. Just
What
reason.
happened here? How did people fit into these things? But no, I think it's going to be that is going to be a blast. And I'm excited for you.
Thank
And
you.
maybe for me, if I
Yeah,
make
I'm
it, I
excited
am
to
wearing
see-
my Winston-Salem-hyphens hat today. So
You are.
maybe it
You're,
was a
you're
sign.
dressed appropriately, and then yeah, we can tear through North Carolina together, and go to Cookout, drink cheer wine.
Cookout. Oh, cheer wine.
That
Oh,
sounds
yeah.
amazing. That all
cheer
sounds
wine really is the nectar of the gods. I
It's
gotta
really, really good.
Yeah.
I mean, part of it is just it's not in the New York City area, so there's just that extra like, oh yes, I'm in Cheerwine territory. But it's a really good soda. It's like a cherry-ish Dr. Pepper.
Yeah.
say. A little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's kind of
Essentially like
that's a
Dr.
good
Pepper,
description.
just heavier on the cherry.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It tastes a little bit like cherry ginger ale to me, like
yeah, I can see that.
what I
as
called a
description.
Shirley Temple growing up, but I know
Yeah.
other people make Shirley Temples with Sprite. Oh, it's so good. Just don't
It
look at the
is.
nutritional facts on the side.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that to yourself.
It's not
Um,
good for you, but it's good for your soul.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I live so healthy when I'm off the road. Clearly, I can do anything I want when I go on the road. So,
I don't
I'll
do
just-
either. So, I'm okay. I'm ready for whatever consequences may come because I don't live healthy on either side.
Yeah, I mean, I don't either, Tyler. But I was trying to. I was trying.
I was trying to
project
I was trying
here
to
on a
bump
podcast.
your I was trying to, bump your image of maybe you do. I do.
I'm doing better. I'm doing better because I'm not a young man anymore. So certain decisions that used to be made are no longer made. But
Boy, I know that game.
yeah,
The only young man amongst us here is Sam Collins, as he is known on the show.
Mhm.
yeah. No, I envy his youth.
Sam. Look at that
I'm
hairline.
officially in my mid-30s now as of last weekend. So like
What do you consider mid-30s? 34 is where you consider it starts?
I would yeah.
Yeah, that's what I would
Yeah.
go. I'm in my late 30s. All right. Enough with all this chatter about our own mortality. You guys took a trip to Erie this week, not literally, but figuratively, over the magic of the internet. Tell us about what's coming up, the conversation with the Erie Seawolves.
We did. Sam and I drove all the way out to Northwest Pennsylvania in our minds, and we talked to Seawolves president Greg Coleman about their championship rings commemorating their first ever league title in 2023, and how they're celebrating and just rings in general. How often do you think about minor league championship rings? Not enough until this segment right now with Greg Coleman of the Erie Seawolves.
The value menu at McDonald's got me thinking. You always ask me for a fry. And when I give you a fry, you always ask for another.
Just one, I promise.
And another. And another.
Thank you.
So, I better get extra fries. Get one of your faves like an order of small fries and get another for just $1. Every day on the value menu. Only at McDonald's. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
At participating McDonald's, valid for item of equal or lesser value.
The AA Eastern League Erie Seawolves won their first ever title last season, first ever championship in Erie, Pennsylvania. And so they're kicking this season off as defending champions and celebrating, raising the championship banner at their home opener this past Tuesday. And also they've been distributing championship rings that I'm no expert on minor league baseball championship rings, but seem like they have a lot of thought in them. 75 stones representing each of the Seawolves wins, a baseball diamond with 4 additional red stones representing their 4 playoff victories. You got the base of the ring with the team mantra, "Howl yeah," et cetera, et cetera. A lot of thought went into this, and I thought it was a pretty cool thing to do for the players. And also pretty cool that Erie won a championship for the first time ever. So just want to talk about all of that with Greg Coleman, Erie Seawolves president, general manager, head honcho, however you want to say it. Thanks for being here, Greg.
Sorry about that. I don't know what the heck just happened, but that was a great intro for the 6 seconds I heard.
That's all right. It even got better, and then you disappeared and came back. So, really, I just said thanks for being here, Greg. So thanks for being here.
I hope that's not how this whole thing is going to go, but hey, happy to be here. Happy to talk through some things here.
Yeah. So first of all, you've been in Erie for a nice chunk of time. What season number is this for you in Erie, Pennsylvania?
If my count is correct, it's my 14th year I'm starting here. So it's been a pretty good run. love Erie, Pennsylvania. I think it's one of the great kept secrets from a community standpoint. 10 blocks from Lake Erie, great cost of living, great place to raise a family.
Yeah, and I've felt that passion from you and others in the front office when I visited Erie and just following the team through the years. It's one of the smallest markets in Double A. There was concern that the team wouldn't exist during the reorganization of minor league baseball heading into 2021. So kind of an underdog story regardless. And then to win that championship, did that, mean even more, like not just we're still here, but, we're the champs?
Oh yeah, no, it was special, and that that extends beyond the walls of UPMC Park. I mean, our fans, they fought hard. I mean, when we were in a situation where we might have been on the chopping block, our community rallied around us, our civic leaders rallied around us, and we had really gone through a period of time that was, I mean, rock bottom. Right. I mean, you don't know if you're going to have a team. Probably about 2 months before that, we had lost one of our players in a tragic accident. Then COVID hit, and you're going through that entire time not knowing what your future is going to be. Meanwhile, also renovating a ballpark, which it's a challenge in its own right. But you go through that whole entire thing, and so you felt what it's like to be sort of at the bottom of the valley, and to then be standing there last year. And I remember it was the seventh inning of the deciding game, and we're up, I think probably 8-0 at that point. And I'm looking around, and everybody's waving those rally towels, and you couldn't help but like get a little misty. You felt like, okay, we've come all the way back from the depths of the valley to the top of the mountain, and gosh darn it, we're going to win this thing. So it's really as good as it gets.
Yeah, and you got close in 2022, finally won it all in 2023. For you, there 14 years, a lot of the fans following along for, maybe the entire history of the franchise, some 3 decades. What was the moment like in Erie when you finally won it all?
Oh, it was amazing, and I think the place was jumping. I've said this many times. We don't have the biggest market or the biggest ballpark, but the energy and atmosphere that the fans create here is second to none in minor league baseball. When you have that situation where everybody's on their feet and waving those howl towels and getting into it, it was just absolutely electric. And we had felt a little bit the year before what that was like. You had mentioned that we got close. We actually went up 1-0 in the championship series, and then went to Somerset. And yeah, they're a great Somerset team. They cleaned our clocks 2 days in a row, including a no-hitter, which was pretty darn humbling. I drove around for about 6 months with the championship T-shirts in the back of my car because I couldn't bring myself to do anything with them. But to come back from that and have the fans be there for this, that's the thing. I think it was really different. I think it was supposed to happen this way. I think if we'd have won it, that first championship in New Jersey, by the way, I love New Jersey. I'm from New Jersey, but if we'd have won it there, that somehow or another wouldn't have been appropriate for our fans. If you're going to wait, 20 some years in order to win your first championship, have it at home. And so there was a plan, and it played out perfectly. So I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Yeah, and then there was, you've been celebrating all sorts of ways throughout the offseason into this season, but, as I mentioned up top, the championship rings you gave out, mentioned a few of the specifics of those, but a lot of thought went into those. I remember reading the press release and kind of reading about how it became this kind of almost all-consuming project for a little while, getting it done. So I think this is something not many people think about. What is the process of designing and creating a championship ring, and what did you guys really want to highlight in terms of commemorating this forever for the players and the staff members and whoever else?
Well, I mean, you're right. Forever is the word to kind of keep in mind. What you're creating here is going to be something that's going to last for a long time. These players are going to have these rings. They're frankly family heirlooms, right? They're going to be passed down to generations. And so you want to make sure you get it right, and that you have everybody reflected in some way, shape, or form. And so we had a couple of decisions to make. One of the things is, what do we want the rings to represent? And the second was, who are we going to trust with it? And so our team owner, Fernando Aguirre, I knew from day one this was going to be something he's going to want to be very, very involved with. So he worked very closely with our assistant GM of communications, Greg Gainey. and started with the basics, which are what are the things we absolutely have to have on here. In terms of the representation, we want to make sure that our logos were represented. We wanted to make sure that the Detroit Tigers logo was represented, that we had some things that represented the accomplishment from the record for the year. But then we also wanted to make sure that there were some things there for the players, something that meant something to them as well. So we kind of narrowed down to the things that we thought we wanted on the ring, and then we had to work with someone in order to be able to bring it to life. And that for us was Barron Championship rings. They have done some work for the Tigers before. They've done some work nationally. I know they've worked at the University of Alabama, but we worked with a lot of folks to kind of get our arms around the idea. But they just did a phenomenal job of kind of bringing our thoughts to life. And ultimately, they are in the business. And again, there are a lot of great companies out there, but Barron was a great fit for us, and they helped us navigate through the process, and we ended up with something we love.
Yeah, and so many of these rings, it's in the minute details, right? It's not just getting that logo right up top and getting the right gems and all that stuff. It's the little things like you mentioned, the record, or as Ben said before, the hell yeah that's on there. What is your favorite minute detail that somebody might not pick up immediately by looking at the ring, but you look at every time you check it out?
Well, from a detail standpoint, on top there is our Howling Wolf logo, and there are basically kind of like an infield diamond with 4 red stones, and each one of those represents a playoff win. So we went 4-0 in the playoffs. But if you dig even deeper, the number of wins between regular season and playoffs was 79, and there is a stone for all 79 of the wins. So there's 75 kind of, well, I'm going to say white for lack of a better way of explaining it, but kind of white gems, and then 4 red ones. So you have your regular season represented, you have your postseason represented, and no one's sitting there counting all 79 gems. But we know they're there and what they stand for.
And just to go back to the team itself, I mean, you don't win a championship without a loaded roster. And looking at that Tiger system last year, I do the top 30 for MLB Pipeline. It's really loaded, really took a nice step forward last year. You guys had like Colt Keith to begin out the year. You end it with Jace Young on the infield. Even Jackson Joe gets called up at a certain point. The pitching staff was really loaded with guys like Ty Madden. What do you feel like is the lasting legacy of the team itself? And looking back at last year, what stood out to you most about how the team played?
Well, the team, very talented. I mean, no question about that. I think, down the stretch, certainly we had some great starting pitching. I had a chance to see Brant Herter pitch throughout the year, and down the stretch, he was just absolutely unbelievable. I mean, you talk about guys like Wilmer Flores, Ty Madden. The bullpen was incredibly consistent. So I think we knew we were going to have good starting pitching coming into the year. I think we knew at some point we were going to have a pretty solid infield with Colt Keith earlier in the year, Jace Young later in the year. That's kind of what we figured was going to happen. But ultimately, it was a lot of other guys who stepped up, who made a lot of plays when they needed to make plays. Some big moments, whether it's Jake Holton had an unbelievable playoff series. Jake's is in Double-A with us again this year, and does a great job playing for us. Chris Myers, these are guys who stepped up in the postseason, and they're not guys that are jumping out on necessarily top 10 lists or top 20 lists, but they stepped up when it mattered. But they played well together. They cared about each other. They cared about Erie, and there's one moment, and we've captured it beautifully on video, where Brant Herter, after we win the championship, he points his finger up in the air. He's got a microphone in his hand. He's kind of hamming it up a little bit, but he says, "I don't know what's going on, but I love Erie, Pennsylvania." And they just were a well bonded, very cohesive group. And I will say, to speak to a couple things, early in the year, we didn't actually get off to a great start to the year. And we had a couple of players who joined us kind of coming back from injury. And that was Dylan Dingler and Andrew Navigato. And Dylan and Andrew are both now in AAA in Toledo. But when they came back, that veteran leadership almost flipped the switch. Dylan does such a great job handling the pitching staff. Ultimately, he was in AAA at the end of the year when we won it. But I don't know if we win the first half without those guys coming back and playing the role they played. So they both deserve a lot of credit.
Yeah, and I love that. That's kind of how local legends are built. It's not necessarily like whatever comes afterwards for these guys in their major league careers, they'll always be Erie legends in that way. And I love that quote from Brant Herter. That kind of touches on something else I wanted to ask about, which is you guys are a Tigers affiliate, but the closest major league team to you guys is probably the Cleveland Guardians. You're one of those minor league markets that it might be a little weird. Like how does the team embrace Tigers prospects and maybe even generate Tigers fans at the major league level?
Yeah, it is. It can be awkward at times because honestly, not just the Guardians being close to us, but the Pirates are close as well.
Yeah, totally.
And so, in theory, the Tigers are almost a number 3 team. But it is interesting because there are a surprising number of Tigers fans that are in the Erie community because back in the day when Ernie Harwell was on the microphone for the Tigers, you would get a clear shot of the radio signal across Lake Erie. So even though you have a lot of those fans there, you have really some fans in our kind of who are more mature who remember that. They remember growing up and hearing Ernie Harwell on the radio. So it was so it is kind of cool to kind of be able to carry that legacy. But yeah, it can be a little awkward at time when Akron comes to town or Altoona comes to town. And last year we had Paul Skeens pitch against us, and that was a very heavy Pittsburgh crowd. I'm not going to lie. So you do kind of manage that. But what I will say is we do have fans who very much follow these players because they've made connections. And that ultimately is what we're trying to do. We're trying to connect fans to the game. We're trying to connect fans to these players so they'll continue to follow them. And look, they are, they're Tigers for, for a significant part of their career, if not all of their career. But there are times when these players are going to go on and play other places. And so we want them to say, hey, I remember this guy when, or I met this guy when, and make that connection and hope that continues. And again, we hope that they stay Tigers fans and root for the Tigers. But ultimately, we want them to feel connected to the game of baseball because that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to grow it.
Yeah, and the championship rings are obviously first and foremost for the players who won that championship, but it's also a chance to recognize people, throughout the organization and in the community who, played a big role and supported the team through thick and thin. And I believe it was on Twitter or X, seeing that, you guys distributed a ring to the beat writer and, to other people, who worked for the team for a long time. What was the process beyond the players themselves and saying, like, we want you to be a part of this and really feel pride in, commemorating this championship?
Well, first, I need to start by saying it is a very difficult process to draw a line somewhere.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I mean, we would love to give one to everyone. It has to stay special, obviously, for the players and the coaches who earned it. But there are other people who we believe made contributions that were significant. But man, that line is tough to decide. And ultimately, the people who decided that was our team owner, Fernando Aguirre, and the Detroit Tigers. And ultimately we put forth people who we felt were deserving. When I say we, myself, our assistant GM of communications, Greg Gagne, we put together a list that we said, we think that this is probably what it should be. But ultimately, it's a decision that, everyone needs to be comfortable with. And so they put their heads together and they used past experience. The Tigers have won championships. They've won World Series. They won, championships at the minor league level. And so I think they pulled on some of that past experience to make sure that we were being consistent or fair or drawing the line in the right space or in the right spot. So we did present a couple of local media rings, one to each local TV station group, one to the local newspaper, who are there every single day, travel to the playoffs, wherever they may be, really do a lot to promote the game of baseball in Erie, Pennsylvania. And frankly, probably know the players almost as well as I do. So I think, they did a tremendous job with that. We also, tied in some of our partners. Frankly, there's some folks who, their contributions to baseball in Erie, if they hadn't made them, we wouldn't be here. And so our partners at UPMC, they have their name on the stadium here at UPMC Park. And honestly, if they hadn't gotten involved when they got involved, I'm not sure we would have survived that minor league baseball cut a few years ago. So naturally, we want to recognize and reward that. We actually had a representative from them out at the ballpark the other night to help us unveil our championship banner. So we tried to do the best we could, knowing that there's always going to be someone who's on the other side of that line. But we wanted to make sure the folks that had made really significant, meaningful investments that fell on the right side of the line got recognized.
Yeah, I'm planning. I'm getting married in October, and it reminds me of making a wedding guest list. Where you want everybody to be there, but
A lot more rings involved in this one, though, Ben.
yeah, sure.
Well, you know what? I tell you what, though, one of the fun things for sure about the process is you can't order a ring without getting somebody's size. So your ability to say to someone, hey, guess what? I'm giving you a call because I need you to get sized for a ring. I need you to tell me what it is because you're getting one. And the range of reactions is everywhere from, okay, I'm gonna go run down and do this right now, to like, me, really, me, like because they never really sort of considered that even a possibility. And so our ability to kind of extend that out to some folks who, again, we believe made deserving contributions. It was, I don't know, it was just a really, really fun experience to be able to share that with them. Also, though, very difficult to it's like herding cats to try to get everybody to get their size. No one just has ring sizers laying around their house. So we got it. We managed through it in a pretty quick process, but it it was entertaining.
Yeah, and well, hopefully this is something that becomes more and more second nature. Getting these rings produced, but you never know in the game of baseball. But to close, I got to ask one more time about 2022. What happened to those championship shirts for the 22 season that didn't quite get over the hump?
So we tried to give them away. Like we tried to, like, so there's an entity, an organization that does things like ships off Super Bowl or World Series shirts that are no longer good, but the quantities are much higher. And I'm not diminishing their efforts, but sort of the response was, what are we gonna do with a box of T-shirts? Like it's one. We're not talking about like
Yeah.
So the quick answer is they're in my basement, and I can't kind of release them into the wild. Although frankly, if I did at this point, I'm not sure anybody would pay close enough attention to 22 versus 23. But until we had won our first championship, those things weren't going to see the light of day, right?
Right.
So I at some point somewhere, there'll be a reason, obviously, to put those to good use, probably for humanitarian reasons. But we tried to get rid of them right away, and the answer was that it's not enough for us to do anything with. So they're in my basement, and someday I'll stumble across them and do something with them.
All right, there you have it. Looking forward to seeing where those end up. But Greg Coleman with the Erie Seawolves, thanks so much for joining us on the Show Before the Show podcast, and best of luck trying to repeat in 2024.
Thanks. Hey, that's the goal. That's what we're going to try to do. So thanks, guys.
Luxury is flying with Etihad Airways. The Residence, the only 3-room suite in the sky, exclusive first-class apartments, the ultimate in elegance and privacy, business studios, a gateway to refinement, gourmet fine dining at 30,000 feet. New Yorkers, why settle for ordinary when you can choose luxury? Discover more at etihad.com/luxury.
Well, a huge thanks to Greg Coleman from the Erie Seawolves for stopping by the Show Before the Show. You can get your Seawolves championship merch, which is pretty cool stuff. And Ben and I will catch up later on as he'll rejoin us for our final segment. But Sam and I are going to talk about some on-field baseball stuff as a 2024 campaign underway across the minor league spectrum. And no surprise that when you start off your minor league baseball campaign by, putting up some numbers that will run off for you over a span of, not even 2 full weeks. When you do things like hit 333 with a 1077 OPS, 2 homers, 9 RBIs, 14 hits, and 42 at bats, when you're pretty good and you're probably ready for things like Major League Baseball. And that is where we find the top prospect in baseball, Jackson Holliday, who was promoted to the Baltimore Orioles after kicking off this campaign with just a handful of games with the AAA Norfolk Tides. You could make an argument, Sam, to me that the Norfolk Tides right now would be like a top 20 or 25 team in Major League Baseball, and they're a AAA franchise. But Jackson Holliday, the top prospect in all of baseball, he is up at the Major League level right now, and pretty exciting stuff. Still looking for his first big league hit, but he scored a couple of runs. He's drove in a run in his big league debut, and the 2022 first overall pick has already graduated to the big leagues. Not graduated from prospect status, but he's made his debut at just 20 years and 4 months old.
Yeah. I mean, he instantly becomes the second youngest major leaguer in baseball right now. The first youngest being Jackson Churio.
Yep.
The third youngest being Jackson Merrill.
If you had a kid in 2003 or 2004 and you named him Jackson, he's probably a top 5 prospect in baseball. Yeah, and if you have a kid who is named Jackson in that time and he has not yet made his big league debut, email us and tell us what a disappointment he is. Podcast@milb.com.
Jackson Jobe, by the way, born in 2002, so it doesn't quite meet this.
He's off the curve.
He's off the curve. We expect to see Jackson Jobe in the majors at some point. But yeah, no, it was interesting the timing of this, that the Orioles call up Jackson Holliday, because when they do, he still technically is available to be part of the PPI program, the Prospect Promotion Incentive. So that's probably playing a role here. They get him, like you said, Tyler, 10 games of AAA experience. He ended last year there. You know, I did some Baltimore radio this week talking about just the juggernaut that was the Norfolk Tides, and we'll get into that later. But the question I kept getting asked was, you know, why didn't Jackson Holliday open on the major league roster? And honestly, like, I thought he would have. He had a really good spring. They gave him ample experience at second base. He has the highest ceiling of any option they would have had there for sure. But they sent him back. They talked about him having to hit against lefties. He is a lefty hitter, get more experience there, get more experience playing second base every day, because last year he played a lot of shortstop. That's what he was drafted at, but Gunnar Henderson's playing shortstop now. So the way they were talking made you think like he's going to be here for a month at least. And then they call him up 2 weeks in, I think because he was doing Jackson Holliday things. I mean, you ran through the numbers, Tyler. I'll throw out another one to you. At the time he was called up, or I guess this was yesterday, I checked this, so I didn't check this on the day he was called up. But as of Thursday, there's now a Baseball Savant search page for everything you could want for AAA and Florida State League for StatCast data. Jackson Holliday had the most balls with an exit velocity above 100 miles an hour in AAA, which is not his thing. Like, he hits the ball hard. That is that is true. And he has a great approach, but he's even talked about it over the offseason. Like last year, what he wanted to do was add power. Like, he knew he had a good hit tool, but he wanted to add power on top of that. And the fact that he was pummeling balls the way he was, yes, only 2 homers, but like, it's a lot of loud contact that was leading to the high average in OBP and slugging percentage, was telling. And, you know, again, I'll go back to Michael Elias saying like they wanted him to hit lefties. What does he do in his first at bat? He homers off a lefty. Like, it was just so tailor-made for, listen, I'm here. If you're going to send me here, I'm going to play with a chip on my shoulder. That much was clear. That actually came out as well in his promotion video, which I'm still not tired of those. I love those every time.
You and me both. Especially his dad was my favorite player for a long time. And hearing the words "call your dad" at the end of that video was just so cool, man. That was
and it was like such a great message too. It was
right.
And I've said this a lot too. People are like, "Oh, what makes him so good?" I'm like, "Well, he's been around major league clubhouses forever. Like, nothing's going to phase him in this. It didn't phase him last spring, not this spring, last spring when he was on the major league side. He was a non-roster invite. So I think he was a non-roster invite. He was on the major league side a ton anyway, despite having played high school ball just the year before. So nothing really phases this guy. And then to have the Tides manager say that of like, I know you've been around clubhouses. You've always had to ask for a pass because that's how it works. Now you get to return the favor, and now you get to tell your dad. you're on my pass list.
Yeah.
And his brother was there too for his debut at Fenway Park. Just a really, really cool. And on top of that, and I know this isn't purely a baseball thing, but I still love the symbolism of it. Him getting number 7,
Right.
which has been like unofficially retired by the Orioles because Cal Ripken Sr., that was his number, and Billy Ripken was like the last Oriole to actually wear it. And the Holidays went to the Ripkins and were like, is it okay if we do this? Because Matt Holiday's number was 7.
Which is so funny because I still think of Matt Holliday as number 5. Because when he came up in the big
started
leagues,
out as 5,
yeah, he spent all those great early years with the Rockies as number 5, and then he was number 5. He had a very brief stint with the Oakland A's, which people probably forget. That was in 2009 after he was traded, and then with the Cardinals, he was number 7, and he went back to number 7 with the Rockies when he ended his career there. It couldn't be number 7 with the Yankees in his brief time in New York, obviously, but yeah, it's such a cool tie-in for the Orioles and for the Holliday family.
Yeah, and it's an indication of just how strongly everybody knows this guy could be the future of our franchise. I mean, they have, and much has been made about this, and I'm not saying anything weird or that anybody hasn't heard yet, but like they have 3 number 1 overall prospects on that roster right now. He has 2 guys he can turn to and is like, okay, what is this like to go through this? And they can tell him exactly what it is. And Adley Rutschman and Gunnar Henderson. There was a cool picture of all 3 of them on the field before his debut. Because they realize this. I mean, they're all smart guys. They know that a lot of spotlight is now on the major league side and is on them at every step of the way. Adley's answered that call. Gunnar's answered that call. And now it's on Jackson Holliday to do the same. Yeah, he started out first 2 games hitless, but that's going to come around. I mean, he's played a pretty capable second base watching those first 2 games. He's going to come into it. He's going to hit the ball hard again. He's going to have a good approach. This isn't going to phase him. He's not going to get too over his skis over 2 games. So, you know, it's still a little bit of a head scratcher to me that the Orioles waited 2 weeks to do this when they could have done this on opening day. And, you know, they went out and signed Tony Kemp and then DFA'd him. And he was really classy in his response, remembering seeing Jackson Holliday when he was in college and working around his uncle. And Tony Kemp is a class act through and through. I think we could have avoided all this, but still, Jackson Holliday's here now. And because he's here now, he's a Rookie of the Year candidate. He's going to be right there with those guys in the Rangers and Evan Carter and Wyatt Langford. It's going to be a fun race in the American League, and I'm really excited to see how it all plays out. But, you know, that just means we've got one number 1 overall prospect down. If he sticks there as we fully expect him to be and he stays healthy, we're going to have a new number 1 overall prospect in at most 45 days.
Pretty fun stuff and pretty amazing time to be an Orioles fan. And it pivots us well to a story that Sam's got up in MLB Pipeline right now. The 10 most loaded minor league teams. Now, surprise, surprise, we've already named number 1, and that is the AAA Norfolk Tides. But the next 4 and 6 of the top 10, Sam, are at the AA level. Take us through some highlights from this list.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting because I wrote this story, obviously noting that Jackson Holliday was on the Tides. And when we were about to run it is when he got called up. That's just the way things work in this business sometimes. But even so, I wanted to acknowledge just that run that they had in the first 2 weeks and just how loaded they still are. I mean, Kobe Mayo is still there. Heston Kjerstad's still there. Heston Kjerstad of the 10 RBI game a little while back. And you know, Kyle Stowers isn't a prospect
7
anymore.
with 10 RBIs in that game.
Yeah, absolutely insane. Kobe Mayo has just as much power, if not more, than Heston Kjerstad. They have some interesting arms and Chase McDermott and Cade Povich. Connor Norby is another prospect on that team who's off to a very quick start. You look at their numbers and how they lead AAA. I mean, right now they have 31 homers through 12 games. Nobody else at the AAA level has more than 20. It's there as a
It's
team.
ridiculous.
As a team, Tyler, they are slugging 589. And like, if
possible?
Their OPS is 994, by the way. Nobody else is above 903, which is still a crazy high number. All credit to Durham. They're off to a quick start too. But if I told you like a AAA team had these numbers, you would be
wild.
like, they're playing in Albuquerque or the
right,
Move.
exactly. Right.
You know, like it's probably El Paso or Reno or so. And those teams are in the top 5 for a lot of these categories too. But it's Norfolk. I mean, they played in Charlotte for a week. Charlotte is a hitter-friendly ballpark in the International League, but it's not at elevation. It's not, you know,
Tours.
Yeah, I think that probably helped them a little bit, but still, they're an absolute juggernaut. After watching a lot of NCAA basketball the last few weeks, I love this phrase. They're a wagon. It's just they're really difficult to stop. And I'm really interested to see where they go from here because, like, even so, when Jackson Holliday was called up, he had this, I think it was the 6th highest OPS on the team. Yeah.
Yeah, and everybody else, I mean, I think of the regular starting 9 for Norfolk, don't 7 of those guys have an OPS over 1,000 at this stage?
Yes. Yeah, it's just insane. So, like, I put together this list. It's based on prospecty goodness. It's not just based off like every aspect of the roster. That I would drive myself insane going that way. But they were the most loaded team. They backed that up through the first 2 weeks. I just feel like even after Jackson Holliday moved to the majors, it would be wrong to not put them at number 1. So they're number 1. Number 2 is the Tennessee Smokies, who have 4 top 100 prospects of their own, and Cade Horton, Matt Shaw, Kevin Alcantara, and James Triantos. Moises Ballesteros also got some top 100 consideration, so that they're pretty well rounded. I just think that Smokies team, like the Cubs, are our number 2 farm system right now, and to have such a concentration at that AA level is really interesting. And you got pitchers in Cade Horton and even Michael Arias, and Matt Shaw was a draft pick last year, and they've opened him up at AA. They think he's that advanced. Alcantara and Triantos has some interesting tools. Alcantara, it's power and speed. Triantos, it's pure hit tool. So I really like the well-roundedness of the Smokies. Number 3, it's the Portland Sea Dogs. They have a big 3 there in Boston. They're used to that phrase for sure. But Marcelo Meyer, I should say, Roman Anthony, and Kyle Teal, all of which are in our top 40 overall right now for MLB Pipeline. They are together with the Sea Dogs, and that's very purposeful. Talking to some Red Sox people this spring, that group has really come together really well. Meyer even said, like, I consider those guys my best friends. He let Roman Anthony give him a haircut the day I was there, which was very funny, because Meyer usually has this like flowing mane, and he had a buzz cut, and there were some people panicking about that in New England, but still, getting those guys together, I think, is a really, really strong core. They play different positions. Meyer's at shortstop, Anthony's in the outfield, Teal's at catcher, so they're not bumping into each other. They're not competing with each other to get a spot in Fenway someday, but they are competing with each other to see who's the best hitter. Apparently, they're always competitive. They're always looking at the other guy's stats, the other guy's advanced numbers, saying, let me one up you. Let me do better than you. And they push each other in that way. So I think that's really interesting on the Sea Dog side. Number 4 is the Hartford Yard Goats. 11 of Colorado's top 30 prospects are all in Hartford to start the year. There are 2 top 100 prospects there, Nadal Amador and Yanquiel Fernandez. But the outfield group, I think, is really interesting. On top of Fernandez, Sterling Thompson's there, Zach Veen, Benny Montgomery. That's a pretty dynamic lineup. They have some interesting pitchers. It's not a ton of pitching there, which kind of keeps them out of the top 3. But that's just a lot of top 30 prospects to be on one team. 11. That's basically half the team is on Colorado's top 30. So that meant something to me. And you can read the 6 through 10 later, but I'll just round it out with number 5. It's the Harrisburg Senators, who I thought coming into the year would be one of the most loaded teams in minor league baseball, and they still are in many ways. But James Wood, who I thought might return to AA after striking out 30% of the time there, they actually put him at AAA after a really hot spring. So who's left at Harrisburg? Well, it's Dylan Cruz, who's number 7 on our top 100 list. It's Brady House, who's number 45. It's Yo-Yo Morales, who's number 100, just joined the list, was their 2nd-round pick, and they were doing cartwheels when they got him. So this Senators lineup is already pretty loaded with that core. But then you look at Robert Hassel III is there. They're expecting him to bounce back after he had some wrist injuries, some hamate issues 2 years ago, and I think that may have affected him last year. He's certainly hungry to prove everybody wrong. And then Andrew Pinckney is their number 17 prospect right now. I don't think a lot of people expected huge things out of him coming out of the draft. He's very toolsy, but he had some hit tool questions. But he hit everywhere he went last year, and they're starting him out at AA because they think he's so advanced coming out of college. So that's a really, really fun Senators lineup. They're lighter on arms. Cole Henry had thoracic outlet syndrome. He's had surgery to address that. The stuff is pretty good. It's just like, can he last 3 or 4 or 5, 6 innings? We're gonna have to see, but at least that there's some intrigue there. on the pitching side as well for the Senators. So that's 1 through 5. Check out the rest. We have versions on both MLB.com and MILB.com on the 10 most loaded minor league teams to start 2024.
All right, Sam. Let's talk about some other standouts. You mentioned James Wood a second ago, a guy who has not suffered from any letdown in his promotion to AAA to start this season. Who else is catching the headlines here in the early days of this minor league year?
Yeah, I think we'll keep it on Wood there, just because we're talking here on Friday, the same day the episode's coming out, and on Thursday, he hit not only his first AAA home run, but his first 2. He came up at one point he needed the triple to complete the cycle, and he homered instead. And he gave Brendan Sampson a pretty good quote about that, and he said, like, I prefer to have 2 homers to the cycle, which God bless you, James Wood. Everybody should. But yeah, first 2 homers, one of which was off Ricky Tiedemann, and he told a good story about that afterwards as well, saying, he was trying to figure out how to work Tiedemann, and he talked to his teammate Jake Alou, who gave him some tips on how to sit on the sweeper. He got a sweeper on the inside corner and drove it to right field really well, especially after he swung and missed at 2 sweepers in his first at bat. But as we sit here now, James Wood is batting .441. He's got a .558 OBP, and he's slugging .794. He has 8 extra base hits in his first 9 games. He's walked 9 times, struck out only 7, and he has 2 steals as well. I know some people, like, coming out of spring, saw him be like the spring standout in the entire Nationals organization and thought he should open the year in the majors. And I got that excitement, but at some level, I think a little bit of that was small sample size. And you look back to last year, and he had some real swing and miss issues, especially against off-speed stuff. And I thought he needed more time in the minors. And the fact that, he's doing that now at AAA, but he is showing the ability to adjust to off speed really well and still show plus power that he has. I mean, all 4 of his hits yesterday were above 100 miles an hour exit velocity. He just pummels baseballs when he makes contact. He's listed at 6'7", 234. It's a skinny 6'7", but he uses every bit of that power and every bit of that frame. And he uses it really well on the base paths too. He played center field. He covers a lot of ground out there. If he can, like, keep the strikeouts in check, he's got real superstar potential. I know my mentions all day today have been filled with people saying, like, would she get the call? Would she get the call? I get it. It's been 9 games, and he's passed every test in a similar way to Jackson Holliday. The only thing I'll say about that is Jackson Holliday had AAA experience going back to last year. James Wood doesn't. So this is his first time at the level, but he's passing every test so far. And I think when he arrives, when Dylan Cruz arrives later this summer as well, a lot of Nats fans are going to see, that future is no longer right around the corner. It's arrived. I mean, it's really coming up quick for Washington. And I think it might not be this year in terms of competing, but they should have every expectation to be a good enough team to really go for it in 2025, kind of similar to what the Orioles have done the last few years.
Yeah, pretty exciting to see that coming back around for Nationals fans. And you mentioned the Orioles, National League, American League. Just throwing it out there. A Beltway World Series would be pretty cool
man,
the next few years. That'd be all right.
I will say too, just to preview this weekend, I know it's not minor league baseball, but the Jackson Holliday will be making his home debut starting Friday night, 3-game set. Who is he playing? The Milwaukee Brewers.
The Milwaukee Brewers,
Jackson Churio.
The 2 youngest, 2 guys who cannot legally drink in this country will be playing in Major League Baseball games against each other coming up this weekend.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
And I got to give all the credit to Jake Rill and Adam McCalvey, who got great quotes from both of those guys about their excitement to play the other one. And Jackson Churio, it's the button of the story at the very end, the kicker, giving advice to Jackson Holliday. And it's like, it's a 20-year-old giving advice to a 20-year-old, which just
as a seasoned vet.
Yeah. But he has been in the majors for enough time. He's been there for 10 games, and he's got some success. So it's kind of how it works. But both
Here's
of those
what I
guys
know with a week and a half head start on you.
Yeah. Both of those guys seem pumped to be like, hey, we're going to face off against each other for a long time. This is a debate we could be having for a long time, and bring it on. Similar to, that honestly reminds me of, I remember a few years ago, we had a debate at number 1 between Bobby Witt Jr., Adley Rutschman, and Julio Rodriguez.
Yeah.
Those guys have arrived. They're all superstars, and we could be debating, like, who should have been number 1 forever. And it could be a legit debate for the best of reasons. And I love that. So
absolutely
hoping those 2 guys follow that path as well.
Pretty fun time in the minor league baseball prospect world. And we will step aside for our final timeout. Josh Jackson stops by with a return to Ghosts of the Minors. Then we're back to wrap up the show coming up next.
That Los Angeles sunshine coming through.
Please stand by. Prime Video and Westworld director Jonathan Nolan invite you to Fallout.
After 200 years, we don't know much about what's up there. Violence, desperation, lawlessness.
Everyone wants to save the world, they just disagree on how.
We're gonna get across that wasteland, and we're gonna do it together.
Fallout. All episodes available now on Prime Video.
We interrupt this podcast to bring you another thrilling edition of Ghosts of the Minors. Now, here's your correspondent and host, Joshua Jackson.
Welcome back to Ghosts of the Minors, in which all of you out there in Radio Land must identify the legitimate historical ball club or player hiding amidst the fraudulent pair. One once donned the tools of ignorance in pro ball. If the others ever played anything, we plead ignorance. In the last segment, I asked you which of the following minor league baseball players did at one time exist. A. Sidney Silversmudge. B. Sidney Bronzebuster. C. Sidney Goldfader. Hey, you guys, you struck it rich if you picked Sidney Goldfader, who may or may not have faded his share of gold, but surely shone on the diamond well enough to make his living in pro ball for 4 seasons in the 1950s. A native of Massachusetts and a graduate of Brandeis University with a major in American civilization, Goldfader was a catcher who also saw time in the outfield and at first base in the Milwaukee Braves organization. A 3-sport star during his collegiate career and eventually an inaugural inductee into Brandeis' Hall of Fame, not least of which for his record-setting rushing on the gridiron, Goldfader's glisten caught the eye of the franchise that had moved from Boston to Wisconsin during his junior year. But that wasn't the only eye he caught. He'd reportedly had interest from the Yankees and Red Sox during his time at Worcester's Classical High, where he was the school's first ever 3-sport captain. But he also garnered the attention of the U.S. military. He was drafted into the Army in the tentative peacetime following the end of the Korean War and served from 1954 until 1956. His military obligation fulfilled, Goldfader immediately proved a golden boy in the minor leagues for the Braves, earning an all-star nod with Wellsville in the Pony League and leading that club to a championship. At the celebratory banquet at year's end, it was Goldfader who was chosen to present skipper Alex Monchek with a set of golf clubs, provoking tears of appreciation. And he did much more that folks in the Milwaukee organization appreciated, from delivering a couple RBIs on a pair of doubles for the 1957 Jacksonville Braves in an exhibition game against the Mantle and Berra-led Yankees, to guiding another club, the 3I League Cedar Rapids Braves, to a championship in 1958, and to leading that team with 22 homers at age 27 in 1959, his last year in the pros. No fool's gold, Fader went on to earn a master's degree in guidance and psychology from Assumption College in his hometown of Worcester after his playing days, and he had a long career in academic administration and outreach positions, including at Brandeis. He died of cancer in 1997, having accomplished all that on and off the field in 65 short years. And that's how Goldfader shines on in memory. Now, on to the question for next time. Which of these teams always kept its chin up in the minors of yesteryear? A. The Muskegon High Spirits. B. The Hobbs Sports. C. The Alamosa Smiles. Want to know the answer? Cheer up. Or tune in for the next Ghosts of the Minors. But for now, you'll have to excuse me. My producer Ben Hill is borrowing cash to buy donuts, and he's deep in the hole.
Saying goodbye from the final segment of this week's episode of the show before the show. Before we go, evidently, Sam Dykstra has thought of a player for this week's segment of Name That Dude, which is what I've deemed this segment now. We talk about players who have spent a considerable portion of their careers in the minor leagues, but also you would know them from their major league time as well. One of us gives hints as to that player's career. The other two try to guess. All right, Sam, let's hear it.
All right. So this player was drafted by the Kansas City Royals in the 31st round.
George Brett.
Of the 1993 draft.
Dang it.
From San Diego High School in San Diego, California. Did not sign. Was then drafted by the Minnesota Twins, so he stayed in the AL Central, in the second round of the 96 draft from the University of Southern California. In 1996, he only played one game in the minor leagues for, at the time, High A Fort Wayne.
The Wizards.
Low A Fort Wayne at the time.
No, it was at High A. It was, or Fort Myers. I don't know why I'm saying Fort Wayne.
Myers, yes.
The Miracle.
Fort Myers was then high. Yes.
All these forts, whether they're in Indiana or Florida. Fort Myers, the Fort Myers Miracle. He played one game for them in 1996. Went 2 for 3 with a double. That's not going to help you, but I thought that was a fun fact.
That guy. The one who went 2 or 3 with a double. I got that.
1997, he stayed in Fort Myers. This guy moved up one level a year. So he was in Fort Myers again in 97. 1998, he was with New Britain, the Rockets of the Eastern League, the Twins AA affiliate, stayed there for 134 games, hit 21 homers, batted .299, had an .857 OPS. Probably should have moved up halfway through, but did not. Then joined Salt Lake in 1999. Salt Lake, at the time, the Buzz.
The Buzz.
Not the Bees, the Buzz.
Yeah, they have the Stingers as the Buzz.
Yeah, one of the teams in Major League back to the minors.
That's correct. And I think the reason for the Buzz was to be similar to the Jazz.
Yes. Same with the former Orem Owls. They ended with a Z to be similar to the Jazz.
That apparently was Utah's thing. Who knew? And then 1999, he made it with the Twins and stayed with the Twins for multiple seasons. Also had a stint with the Chicago Cubs. This player, let's see what his final. He was with the Cubs through 2007. He played for them in 2006 and 2007. So he was with the Twins from 99 to 2005.
Wait, so when did he debut in the major leagues with the Twins?
1999.
99, and he was with the Twins through 2005?
Through 2005. I haven't said this guy's position yet, but I did say his hitting stats, so that's a hint. He had brief stints with both the Tigers and the Marlins in 2008, then went and played in the Mexican League, and then played in Newark for one season, then rejoined the Twins organization in 2010 for his age 35 season, played 96 games for Rochester, batted .280, had a .706 OPS, and then did not play again. Retired after 2010. Any guesses so far?
This is going to be a tough one.
Yeah, what was his position?
He was an outfielder.
Early 2000s Twins outfielder. Later with the Cubs. In 2006 and 2007.
So he was 7 total years with the Twins. Had a .279, .327, .455 slash line that worked out to a 101 OPS plus. So he's essentially a league average.
League average player.
Yeah.
It's a Denny Walling.
It is not.
Can't remember what position
he never won any yearly awards, didn't make an all-star game. But on those Twins teams of the early 2000s that were pretty well known, consistently won the AL Central, he was one of the better known names, I would say.
Going to be one of those guys that as soon as you say it, I'm going to go, oh yeah, I wonder whatever happened to that guy. I haven't thought about that guy in a long time.
His career high for homers was 27, which he did in 2002 with the Twins and 2006 with the Cubs.
Wow.
Yikes! This is
this is a tough one, Sam.
He batted 300 in 2002 with the Twins, and then 304 in 2003.
Man,
solid average hitter. Played the outfield.
Oh my goodness.
I can't give you his nickname because that's gonna get.
Oh my gosh. I know. I can see him. I can see his face. Hang on. It's coming to me. Hang on. Jock Jones.
Jock Jones
yes!
is correct.
Yes. I was like, it's not Torrey Hunter. Who else was in those outfields? Jock Jones.
Seems so obvious now, but I was so far from getting that.
Yeah, Jock Jones. My next thing was going to be he was
Jock Jones.
Postseason stats. So he was on the Twins team in 2002 that went to the ALCS against the Angels and lost. And he played against the Yankees in 2003 and 2004 in the ALDS. And we know how those usually work out for the Twins.
All right, you guys, we will say goodbye on this week's episode of the show before the show. Get in touch with Ben. If you would like to be a designated eater, get subscribed to the podcast, track down the itineraries for 2024 road trips. And for Sam Dykstra and Benjamin Hill, my name is Tyler Mon, and we will catch you next week.